Welcome, Rabbi. How are you?
Good evening. How are you?
Well, it is a tense evening, but luckily and happily we can talk about other things, not just security. And I want to talk about your book that was published in Hebrew and English. But before that, before we dive into that, tell me a bit about yourself and about your contribution to bringing people together.
Okay, so I was not raised as a rabbi. From a very young age, I was always between worlds. I was raised in a religious family, but was also always very connected to mother culture, to the mother world, to the secular world. I was involved in high technology from a very young age. I was in the army served in the army for many years in the Navy SEALs. And always was trying to build bridges between the world, internally and also externally, like in Israeli society. Mm-hmm. And that's when I was 27 and I decided to get into the world of spiritual leadership. That was my primary goal, to try bridges in Israeli society. Later on, I started being involved also with Jewish communities around the world, mainly in North America, and that's also one of the bridges I was trying to create between Israel and Jewish communities in outside of Israel, and that's the reason for which the book was published both in Hebrew and in English.
That's beautiful to do that, and okay, let's talk a little bit, or not a little bit. Let's talk about the book. Perhaps we can see it as well, and you explain what is the book about.
Yes, it's interesting. We are in 2 days from now. We will be commemorating a very special day in the Jewish calendar, Tisha B'Av. That, based on our tradition, Tisha B'Av is the day of the destruction of the first and the second temple, and many other catastrophes took place on that date based on our tradition. Now, almost 2,000 years later, we are in Israel. Like, you have the beautiful picture of the walls of Jerusalem behind you, and we are here in Israel after 2,000 years, after all the destruction and all the attempts for annihilation of our people, almost everywhere where we've been, because of one thing, because we have within the system of our tradition, we have what we call halacha. That's a halakhic bridge. Halacha is the Jewish law. And that structure of Jewish law, we always rebelled against Jewish law, by the way, from day one. If you go to the biblical stories, we never liked Torah, we never liked the rabbis, we always rebelled, but at the very same time, more than we observed the halacha, the Jewish law, this is what preserved us as the Jewish people. In the ritual of the prayers, as an example, we always, for 2,000 years, mentioned Jerusalem, the dream to return to our homeland. And because of that structure of halacha, we are able now, 2,000 years later, we are still remembering the destruction, but we are rebuilding the startup nation here in Israel. By the way, interesting fact, now it's the first time since the destruction of the first temple that the biggest concentration of Jews is in Israel, because during the times of Second Temple, majority of Jews lived in Babylon. So the first time since the destruction of the first temple, in few years' time, based on all predictions, majority of Jews will be living in Israel. First time since the destruction of the temple. If you ask me, like, speaking about miracles, that's the biggest miracle in history. And it happened, and that's what I believe, because of the system that we have, the system of halacha, of Jewish law. Now, that system has faced many challenges.
We all know that the Bible gives us the rules on how to live and how to serve God. So where does the halacha fits in?
Perfect question. That's exactly what I was about to say. The Torah, the Bible that was given from God, is untouchable based on our tradition, because it was given from God. However, God empowered the rabbis to take ownership on the Jewish law, because in every generation we have different needs. And this is basically one of the major things I'm reviewing in my book, the involvement of Jewish law over the course of generations. Because in each and every generation, we had different needs, different challenges, and the role of the rabbis was to interpret the halacha, the Jewish law, to meet the needs of the time. So in that sense, halacha was always evolving. It was never running. It was never there were no revolutions, but there was an evolution, and the halacha served as the bridge between the written Torah, the Torah that was given based on our tradition from God, and reality. The Torah is not changing. Reality is changing, and therefore Jewish law was always dynamic, was always changing, and that has been the tradition for many years. What is unique in our time, and that is why we are facing an enormous challenge more than ever, reality is changing in such a rapid pace. Changes that are taking place in the span of 5 years, technological changes, societal changes, norms of the society, the discourse, things are changing in such a rapid pace. In the past, these changes took place in the span of 100 years, 150 years. And the halacha is not used to respond in such a pace. And the gap between Jewish law and reality is growing bigger. And that is posing a huge threat to that system of halacha, of Jewish law. And I believe, again, regardless of whether we are observing the law, semi-observing, not observing, this is part of Jewish existence. And therefore, we need, as a community, leadership, as a nation, to think, to understand, that black box that we call halacha, the Jewish law. How did it function? How did it work over the course of generations? What are the special needs of our time, the postmodern society, and think about the future? I write in the introduction to the book that many times when we speak about rabbinical leadership, we associate rabbinical supervision. Under rabbinical supervision, sometimes it's true, but I think what we need to have in our time is a rabbinical supervision, a vision for the future. How will the world look like in 50 years from today? Our children, grandchildren. On one end, people are much more open nowadays to spirituality. We see it all over the world because of the postmodern world.
Definitely.
In the
And
world,
by the way, in this specific time with the COVID-19 and the vast change that it imposes on our lives, we see a lot of people who find their faith once again, and that is very interesting. And it goes to all religions, I think, but it is definitely noticeable.
100%. 100%. And it's interesting. It's a COVID-19, but I think the postmodern culture is enabling that change, because in the past, in the modern age, it was very black and white. You either belong to the old world, the mystical world, the ancient world, and then you're religious and connected to religion, or you belong to the new world of the Enlightenment, and everything that belongs to the past is irrelevant. But today, in the postmodern age, people can be everywhere without having a specific commitment. I can be religious and non-religious at the very same time. I can be committed and non-committed. It's like you can juggle between many different worlds without any contradiction. So yes, you can have faith, but you can live secular life, and that's part of the culture. So on one hand, it enables many people to reconnect to the roots, whether you're Jewish or non-Jewish, and it's, as you said, it's happening all over the world. The system of law, especially the system of Jewish law, which is more complicated than the system of law in any other religion, and it's enormous. I can't explain, in just a few minutes. Whoever wants to see the richness of that system is most welcome to be in
the book is for that. But I want to ask you,
which, by the way, this book is written.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I'm saying this book is written for everyone, not for scholars, not for professors, not for rabbis. Everyone, Jews, non-Jews, can understand, because everything is explained, is translated to see the breaches of that system. But this system is based on commitment and on authority. And what we see in postmodern times, people don't have commitment. People don't want to make a commitment. Even your mobile phone, you switch once a year. People don't make any commitment to any job, because the world is very dynamic. People reject authority because people can know so much. You can acquire in a blink of an eye. You can acquire so much knowledge on any topic via the internet. So, like the entire, it is checking the entire system, and this is the goal of my book. Like together, to think about our future. Where is it taking us? What is the system? Why is it so important for the existence of the Jewish people? And what will be in 50, 100 years from today to start a discussion? That's in essence that what the book is all about.
And I'm wondering, how do you see the importance of your book to people of faith from other religions?
I think, first of all, to appreciate the Jewish tradition, to understand the Jewish tradition, to understand that system, and how that system brought us back to Israel. You know, it's unprecedented. There's no nation in the world that was exiled for so many years, was scattered all around the world, that in every place where we've been, almost every place, with just a few exceptions, people try either to cause us to convert, to assimilate, or to annihilate our nation. And after 2,000 years with all these ordeals, we came back to our homeland. Based on, by the way, all the prophecies that appear in the Bible, it's unprecedented. It did not happen to any nation in the world. And one of my major claims that this is the system of the Jewish law. Despite, Jews are scattered all over the place in Europe, in Africa, in Asia, and this is what connected us together. That we had a system that, regardless of where our culture, the norms of society where we live, is something that created that bond, which eventually brought us here. So if people are interested in understanding like Jewish existence, Jewish survival, Jewish eternity as one of the ancient nations in the world, I think this is something that also, as a non-Jew, this book can provide a fascinating insight into Jewish tradition and the way it evolved over the course of generations.
Mm-hmm. And then I'm curious, because of your work to bring people together, what do you think about the situation today in Israel with the demonstrations and the polarization of opinions in the street?
So it's very painful. To begin with, we live in challenging times. Many people are suffering, and you see the pain. You listen to the voices. Many people are struggling, like literally struggling. So, we need to be very careful before judging people. At the very same time, there's something which I'm very disturbed about. And, this is also one of the major things I'm trying to suggest in my book. And I want to explain, Jewish tradition is all about disputes. From day one, like just read the Bible, go through the Talmud, everything is what we call in Hebrew a machloket, a dispute. It's a dispute, it's a conflict. And, I think this is a beautiful tradition. I'll explain why. Because none of us has the ability to see the full picture. Our compassion is limited. And you can see, sometimes you can have an argument with, it can be your spouse, your best friend, your children, your colleague. And you look at the very same picture, and each one of you is seeing a completely different picture. And why? Because we're different people. By the way, the word, it's very interesting, because the Hebrew word for dispute is machloket. Machloket comes from chelek, peace. We all see just one piece of the picture. Peace, like shalom, peace in Hebrew, comes from shalem, the whole. We all see different pieces, and shalom, peace, is bringing all these little pieces together and see the whole picture. We need each other. We need to disagree, because each one of us sees a different part of the picture, and this is significant. But the most important thing is to know and to learn how to respectfully disagree, how to realize that I need you just as you need me. What bothers me is when we see hatred. We spoke about the destruction of the temple based on our tradition. The temple was destroyed because of one major reason, because of baseless hatred between Jews. And if what we have to do in our times, yes, we need to disagree, and there are major disagreements, but it has to be done respectfully, without hate, with lots of respect. And if we will learn just how to respectfully disagree, I think this is a major work, especially in these sensitive times, that we are all struggling and suffering. Just respect, just to have empathy, to have compassion, zero judgment, to realize we're all struggling. Yes, we can disagree, but we all have good intentions to disagree, but respectfully disagree. I think this is the key to heal our society, despite the major disagreements we have. And I just wish that we will see more love and empathy in the streets together with the demonstrations.
Right, I agree. And real quick, because we are running out of time, where can your book be purchased?
Okay, so if you live in North America, the book can be, there's now for another week 50% discount. It can be found on my Facebook page or on my website, which carries my name, Ronen Neuwirth, Neuwirth. The book is also available in Amazon. So if you live anywhere else in the globe, the most reliable way to order the book is via Amazon.
All right, Rabbi Ronen Neuwirth, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Zohar. It was a pleasure, and I wish us all peace and health. And hopefully we'll soon emerge from that crisis to a beautiful world with lots of light and togetherness and love and empathy. Thank you.